The late afternoon sun bathed the city streets in a golden hue, casting long shadows over the busy sidewalks. It was a kind of day where everything felt routine, where the rhythm of life moved predictably. State Senator Naomi Carter had just left her mother's home after their weekly visit, her heart warmed by the comforting familiarity of family. She made a last-minute stop at the local mall, her mind preoccupied with a growing to-do list. As she stepped across the parking lot, grocery bags weighing down her arms, she inhaled deeply, savoring a rare moment of peace. Unbeknownst to her, just a few yards away, Officer Evelyn Porter sat in her patrol car, observing the scene with keen eyes. Evelyn had been patrolling this area for years and had a reputation for being tough, unyielding even. She prided herself on her instincts, and right now, something about the woman near the car set off alarm bells. Dressed impeccably, poised and unbothered, the woman looked out of place. Evelyn's grip tightened around the steering wheel as she stepped out of her car. "Ma'am, what are you doing here?" The words cut through the stillness, carrying an edge of authority that made Naomi pause. She turned, her expression composed but puzzled. "I'm just loading my groceries into my car. Is there a problem?" Evelyn studied her, looking for any sign of nervousness, any justification for her unease. But Naomi's demeanor was calm, too calm, Evelyn thought. Her authority prickled against this unwavering poise. "ID," Evelyn demanded, her voice flat, her fingers brushing over the belt at her waist. Naomi's brow furrowed, a flicker of disbelief crossing her face. "Is there a reason for this, officer?" Evelyn's eyes hardened. "You're acting suspicious. I'll decide whether there's a reason once I see some identification." A deep sigh left Naomi's lips, but she complied. Reaching into her purse, she retrieved her wallet and handed over her ID. Evelyn's eyes flickered across the card, reading the name aloud. "Senator Naomi Carter," she muttered, her tone dismissive. "Never heard of you." Naomi forced a polite smile, though irritation simmered beneath the surface. "I represent District 12. I am a state senator." Evelyn's lips pressed into a thin line. The title didn't impress her. Something about Naomi's confidence, the way she refused to shrink under authority, rubbed her the wrong way. "I don't care who you are," Evelyn snapped. "You're coming with me." Naomi's stomach clenched as she watched Evelyn slip her ID into her pocket. Her pulse quickened, but she kept her voice measured. "Officer, this is a misunderstanding. I have done nothing wrong." Evelyn ignored her words, reaching for the cold steel of her handcuffs. In one swift motion, she snapped them around Naomi's wrists, the metal biting into her skin. A murmur rippled through the parking lot as bystanders paused, their faces a mixture of confusion and concern. Naomi stood tall despite the indignity of the situation. She met their eyes, silently willing them to remember what they saw. Inside the patrol car, silence hung heavy. Evelyn gripped the wheel tightly, her knuckles whitening against the leather. In the back seat, Naomi sat upright, her expression resolute despite the growing sense of injustice. At the station, whispers followed them. "Is that Senator Carter?" one officer murmured, his voice barely audible over the rustle of paperwork. Evelyn ignored the growing tension, leading Naomi down a narrow corridor to a cold interrogation room. She gestured for Naomi to sit and slammed the door behind her. Minutes dragged by, stretching into what felt like an eternity. Then, the door creaked open and Lieutenant Daniel Hayes entered. Broad-shouldered and composed, his sharp suit gave him an air of authority that commanded respect. He extended a hand. "Senator Carter, I apologize for this inconvenience." Naomi shook his hand firmly, her composure intact despite the frustration simmering beneath her surface. "I appreciate your professionalism, Lieutenant, but I would like to know why I was arrested in the first place." Hayes nodded, his expression darkening as he scanned the hastily written report. His gaze lifted to Evelyn, who stood rigidly by the door. "Officer Porter," his voice was cold, "do you have any idea who you brought in here?" Evelyn's shoulders tensed. "A woman acting suspiciously in the mall parking lot," she replied defensively. Hayes's eyes narrowed. "This isn't just any woman. This is Senator Naomi Carter, one of the most respected leaders in this state." A murmur rippled through the station. Evelyn's bravado wavered as realization dawned. "I didn't know," she stammered. Hayes's voice was like steel. "That's no excuse. Your actions were reckless and unjustified. You've embarrassed this department." The room fell silent. Evelyn opened her mouth, but found no defense. She had no excuse. "Effective immediately. You are suspended pending investigation." Hayes continued. "Hand over your badge." For a moment, Evelyn hesitated, her fingers brushing over the metal pin to her uniform. Slowly, she unclipped it and placed it on the table. The sound of metal against metal echoed through the room. As Naomi stepped out of the police station, the cool evening air wrapped around her. She took a deep breath, shaking off the weight of the ordeal. Turning back, she caught a glimpse of Evelyn standing alone inside, her authority stripped away. There was no triumph in this moment, only realization. Naomi had done nothing wrong, yet she had been treated like a criminal. And she wasn't alone. Countless others had faced similar injustices without the platform to speak up. Turning to the waiting reporters and bystanders, she spoke with quiet strength. "Today, I was reminded that prejudice and assumption still hold power in our society. But we have a responsibility to confront these injustices, not just for ourselves, but for everyone." Her words struck a chord, sparking conversations that would ripple far beyond that night. For Evelyn, the consequences had only begun. Suspension was just the start of a long process of accountability. But this was not just about one officer's mistake or one senator's resilience. This was about something greater, a reminder for all to question biases, to treat every person with dignity, and to never let injustice go unchallenged.